Meantime, would you believe the director of personnel came in? We sat down and had us about a good solid hour interview. I mean, really a good interview. And I'll never forget one of the questions they asked me. They knew where I was raised. They knew where I'd been teaching. They asked me this. He said, if we were to tender you a contract and you were assigned a black student in your class, what would be your attitude and behavior toward them? Never had one before? I sat there, I don't know, I'd say to the count of 15 anyway. Never said a word. Looking down like that. And then I looked up at Dr. Rucker and I said, well, I cannot tell you for 100% sure what my reaction would be, but I said, I believe down in the bottom of my heart that I could treat him just like one of the others. He just kind of nodded his head. No more questions about that. The next day I didn't know, said, well, do you mind if we call any of your people that you've indicated? I said, well, if you're interested in me, go ahead and call. I said, if you're not interested, I said, I don't want to get jeopardized on the job I got. Being right up front. So I figured, yeah, well, John, you're going to go home, and that's the last you're going to hear of them. I didn't look too favorable. I didn't think that would be that much. Would you believe on Thursday morning I had a long-distance phone call from Dr. Rucker up there, and his first thing, as soon as I identified myself, you know what his first question was? He says, John, if we tendered you a contract, would you sign it? After I finally got my chin up off of the floor, I said, I believe I would. And I had, in a few days, I had a contract which I signed and sent back. I stayed 30 and a third years right there in the same school. Happy. Happy with it.
Eventually, did the school integrate, and did you have...
We're up there? Oh, it was already integrated.
In Springfield?
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
yeah. They, now I'm not positive the exact year, whether they did that in the fall of 55 or 56, but it was right, they didn't take very long. See, Springfield didn't have a large population of black, only about 3 to 4% perhaps. They had a black high school, and it was in, it was in pathetic condition. So I think it was, to them, it was simply a good financial thing just to get out of that place. But I had one black student that first year, the finest young man I ever had in class. Black, white, yellow, cream, or whatever color you want. Let me tell you something, that boy could make a violin talk to you. Ooh, he could do that. I had him in a general math class. He went on from there and got his necessary things to go to college, got his doctorate, and the last I heard of him, he was teaching in the university at Knoxville, Tennessee. So I don't think I hurt him too much.
I know our students have some rides about to pick them up, but do you all, are there some any questions that you'd like to ask?
You know, I think he pretty much answered everything we had written down.
Well, did you expect me to give all those little stories that you heard?
But it was great. Great quotes. Yeah.
I noticed you were taking a few notes back there.
Yes, sir. We're going to write a story first.
Be right at it.
Yes.
All right, so I work across the street where we met, and it's our job to talk about this, not just to talk about maybe the stories or the facts or the things that are taught in school. So if there's, I know this is difficult to say, but if there's maybe one thing you would want from your experience to leave for students now and every other student who will come through these hallways to know about that experience? Maybe an emotion, or maybe just
You mean
something that's not
ugly, not ugly. Well, I don't really quite know how to answer that question. What I would want, personally, the way I feel now, and I think the way I felt then, that every young person have an equal opportunity. Now, I know what the old rule was before Brown versus Board of Education was. Separate but equal. Well, let me tell you something, Doc, it wasn't equal. Separate, yes, but not equal. Now, you kids are not poor, I don't think. I mean, you haven't missed any meals or anything like that. So you don't know much about what it means to have hand-me-downs, do you? You know what a hand-me-down is? Yeah. What somebody else has gotten tired of or outgrew. Okay. What the black schools had back then was what the white schools had done wore out. Now, if you call that equal, I don't. Yes, the teachers, many of the, back then, many of the black teachers were good people and probably did the very best job they could do. But they hadn't had the equal opportunity for an education to learn to teach. So that's what my thing is. I would want every child to have that equal opportunity. I don't care if it's black, white, yellow, Native American, whatever. Some of the finest kids I had in class was black. And some of the best ones I had in class, you would say, were yellow. And with this, George, unless you've got other questions, I'm going to tell you what I did one time in class. I had a young black cheerleader in class, a lovely girl. One day in class, we were just going along nice and pretty, and all of a sudden a big commotion. And there she was, just like that. What was happening was, she couldn't breathe. She was at a point where, what's the word I'm trying to say? What's the word I'm trying to say?
What, hyperventilating?
Yeah, hyperventilating. That's what I'm trying to say. She was hyperventilating. What in the world would I do? I'd never seen anybody hyperventilate before. So, here's what I'm going to do. I don't care if you don't need to do this. Come here. I just sit down right there where you are. You're in your desk. I walked over right beside her just like this, and she was like that, and I did just like this, and I began to talk to her very quiet and very slowly. Breathe slowly. Breathe deep. Just relax. Breathe slow. And we did that, and all of a sudden, it was all over. Now that's one of my memories.
Yeah.
And some people would have said back there in 1957, let her die. That didn't sound too good, did it? She was a good kid. I didn't care if she was black. So when she got caught up with it, I had one of the other girls to take her to the nurse and tell them what happened. And from that point on, that young lady was one of my good friends. She was. Okay.
You know, that's a wonderful story because it's the moment where the human connection is made. You bridge those gaps and barriers, and that's a powerful story, and it's a powerful moment for people to have in their lives.
Could you please spell your last name for me?
M-C-C-U-L-L-A-R-S.
Thank you.
1 M, 2 C's, a U, 2 L's, and an A-R-S.
Now think of it like this, how it's pronounced. You know how you pronounce the general